Hello and welcome back to my channel, Checks, Captures, Threats, and today's episode, in episode 21, we're going over checks, captures and threats. So, based on the channel name, this is where we have three things that we're going to have each time we think of a move. So, every time we play a position, later towards the middle game or end game, we should always think of the idea of checks, captures or threats. What is there? So, we've got four openings again we're going to go over. So the Queen's Gambit, the Italian, French and Nimzo Indian. So the four we went over in the other ones, in the opening principles and everything, or before that. So, here we go. I'll go through it now. I'll teach you the way, and then hopefully in the latter ones you can kind of guess it yourself. So, Queen's Gambit. We're going to go through the declined variation this time. And remembering how we went through all of this before, how this is where the position should normally be around, give or take some of the moves. We're actually going to play c5 here. This is also classified as a pawn break, so I want to use that to your knowledge. Each will castle, knight out, and I'd say queen c2. So this is a very symmetrical position with pawn structure. Some of the knights as well, but after that it's all their game. So we'll do for white and black here. Is there any checks? So what we can see is there is one check, and it is bishop would be, let's make a move here for black, it would be bishop takes here, which obviously isn't good because they just capture and you've lost a piece. So there is no good checks on, so we can't place something like that. Now, captures. What are the captures here for white? So we've definitely got a few. We've got this pawn we can capture. Kind of, they could take with a queen or bishop here. Probably would have to take with the queen, because if they take with the bishop, they get what we call double pawn. Then we can play the check. So they probably would have to take with the queen. So that's a very valuable option we can take. We could also take here, which after they capture, using the idea that what we can do now is we capture their knight, which is another capture we could do, and obviously if they don't want to get double pawned, we can win that pawn back when we now pawn up, and most likely going to cause some trouble. So that looks like a very valuable option. We can call that a candidate move almost. But also, you've got to bear in mind is that I straight away did that with the pawn. So we'll have a look at the other options with black soon. And there's one other capture here, and that is bishop takes knight, because they just capture back. It's a very even position again from there. So that's that. Now threats. What threats can white create? So not capturing anything, but like I'm saying, for example here, maybe bringing the queen to here, offering a queen trade with threatening to swap queens. That's a very valuable option. We could put our knight to e5, threatening this bishop, this knight, and it's right in the middle of the thing, maybe forcing a trade-off. You could also be as simple as something small like a4, trying to play a5 soon to try and dislodge these pieces. So there's many options here. As you see, we went over about 6, 7, sort of maybe 8 like ideas here. So hopefully what you can see there is we have what we call a candidate move. This is what's probably the best move to go forward for in the later stages. So, I would say the best move, which would be the candidate move, would be something like taking here. So, anyway, now for black. Have they got any checks? As we can see, the king is fully protected for white, so no, there is no checks. Captures. So, obviously it's white's move, so let's say they did capture here. Now we've got to be careful here, because again, if we capture with the pawn, we just do what happened, like I said, and this happens. So instead of that, what we can do now is a few other things. So, obviously again, no checks. Captures, we can capture with a knight here. Isn't the best though, because all they're going to do is, they could do a few things. Firstly, this is left this now, and after we take with this knight, we attack his queen, and it's not the best, but we win a pawn out of that just there. Now, we don't have to take, yes, we lose a pawn here, but there is other moves here. See what's being the threat right now is on this knight, so we could either capture the pawn or move the knight. So if we move the knight, the best square here would be b4. So, and as we can see, this is a fork technically. I mean, they are protecting each other and will stay protected, but after the queen moves, staying on the same line, we can just trade off here, and it's even, really. So, as black will just recapture now, as if this takes something like the queen or the bishop can take now. So, what we learned there is how, making sure you use the checks, captures, threats, we can understand how it comes very, very valuable. Okay, so now we understand that. That was a bit more depth. We'll just quickly go through these ones now. So, this is the Italian, obviously. So, remembering how, as we went through this just recently, actually, very recently, hopefully you can remember what we actually do in these sort of positions. So, see there's many similarities here. I've already got as well from the Queen's Gambit with this knight as well. Okay, I would say we're pretty much there. Just coming out of the opening. Most likely, when you come out of the opening into the middle game, you'll very rarely find checks. Use the checks idea more or less towards the end game. So, I'm just trying to show you from the openings we've done what the checks, captures, threats are. So, for black here, because it's black's first go, what are the captures? So, obviously, the main one is we can capture this knight, but I would say it's very bad because that puts our knight in a much better position, and they've wasted a very good bishop because this bishop is trapped. I would then see that we can also capture this pawn. So, we recapture, and this is where you can now do knight can take. So, a pawn up, because obviously if we take, we lose the queen. That's putting pressure on the pin. So, now, let's say it's whites go from here. Again, no checks, but captures. We don't really want to capture anything right now. We've got to worry about the threat that's going on to us. So, what we can do is prove a threat ourselves by going to h3. Obviously, forcing the bishop here. Now, obviously you could say, oh, well, this dislodges this, so we're attacking the knight and this, but after they capture, it's the same. So, here, I would say even stuff like, you know, now I think what you got to do is just make sure this doesn't cause a threat to you. There's many things you can do. Bring the bishop back, for example, if you're so worried about the queen. Anything like that isn't too particularly worrying. You know, you've got, now you can worry about creating your own threats, because technically now this is not a threat, really. Now we've put a lot less on it. We've got 3 defenders against 2 attackers. We should be fine. So just simple moves like rook e1, rook c1. There you go. So, I understand that. So, let's say black just played a simple move here. Now we can do the captures here. We got capture like this, and also this knight, not very good here, and the threats, this is really the only threat, maybe actually even d5. So there we go, that's the Italian, what we've just gone through there. Hope you understand that. 2 more we're going over. So here's the French defense. We'll go over the advanced variation here. So, just getting these moves out, very much book moves here. So, black go here now, and what are the captures? We got this, doesn't look that good after we capture, and also they can also capture with the knight as well, which would give their bishop a very good entry. And that's really the only capture we have. Threats wise though, we could always push this pawn, force the bishop back. That's always something we could do. We even have something like bringing, you know, this queen is attacking this b pawn. Can we get this queen out of the way? Maybe if we do capture, we can also look at the move bishop here. Ideas of that. So hopefully you understand that there is some sort of ideas here as well. Now, we've gone through as much as we can there. There's not really too much here because we need to delve later into the game for that. But for the captures here, we can obviously capture with white like this. Isn't the best though, we actually open the rook up. And also in the captures here, we kind of allow their queen to be a lot better. Threats though, there is quite a few threats we can do. As white, we can, you know, put our knight now very much in the game, especially the bishop as well. You know, we can push this pawn, get that Tarrasch style from the French. We can even put our queen here. So just understanding how we're using checks, captures, threats to find the best candidate move. And last but not least, we're going to go over the Nimzo Indian. Just going very quickly on each of these openings now, because we know the basis. Just trying to give you the ideas of what they are like. So we can play pin here. So, here, for white, we've got this sort of check here, which actually is a check that they can play here. Because if they take, they lose the queen. So, that is, you know, using the vulnerability of the knight with the pin. So it forced the king to move, so you're now pawn up. We also have stuff like, that being the only check, the only captures we have is this, isn't the best. And this, which again isn't the best. So there's that, and obviously the threats. We could do stuff like putting the knight in. Obviously can't take because then that knight's lost. And also ideas of stuff like maybe bringing the bishop or the rook even on the same line as the queen. So now for black in this position, what would the checks, captures and threats be? Obviously no checks, but something like a capture here, forcing this off maybe. We can now have this very nice open bishop for something like this. Obviously now the room is dim, but we're attacking this piece, and obviously we can always go back at any time. So there's that. We also have a capture here, but that undouble pawn then. We don't want that. And that's all the captures and the threats. Now very little threats as black is kind of on the defensive end. We could do stuff like this, putting pressure on this pawn. We also could do stuff again like putting the rook in line with the queen. That's always quite good there. And maybe even trying to get this queen off of this file slowly. So that is it for today. Hopefully you understand the video idea of checks, captures and threats. That is the whole channel name. So there is that. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. So thank you and bye bye.